one in his 10-month-old mind and his 10-month-old soul.
But I don't care. I'll be content being used.
Wow, man, that's what cuteness will get you.
He's so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. That's a type of pretty privilege right there. What are your thoughts on pretty privilege?
Um, I don't know that I think anything about pretty privilege. What are your thoughts on pretty privilege?
I was surprised at the level of attention it gets in different parts of the country. So, like, when I go and visit my brother and his friends in DC, like, they have a lot to say about, like, the girls who get invited to everything because they're good looking. Where I don't even feel like I'm not saying that never happens elsewhere, but I was surprised at how out in the open and discussed it was when I was in DC versus here. Like, I don't know that I've had anyone in Lander ever use the phrase outside my own family who, because my brother was talking about it, like we know about the term. I don't know that I've ever heard a single Landerite use the phrase. And growing up in Vermont wasn't something we talked about. But then, like, you go down to um, like Miami or SoCal, like LA, and like it is part of the like public conversation again. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I think that there are just prettier people in big cities because, okay, if you're rich, you're going to marry someone beautiful. If you're beautiful, you know that, and you're going to go find the rich person. And it kind of works on both sides, but I think more typically for women. There's so many like incredibly gorgeous women in LA, and they're like doing nothing. They're makers, and they have these incredibly beautiful children. And you see that, I mean, I think it's not just like a question of numbers. Like there's just a greater population, so there's also more pretty people. I think they do tend to like flock to where the money is. But
Mm.
I mean, there's pretty people everywhere, but I think people can use it in a different way when there's like the economic kind of background for it.
I think also like you could aesthetically have like great bone structure, great skin, whatever. But if you grow up on a ranch, like you're putting your hair in a braid, you're getting in like you're wearing boots and denim, and
And
then
the
like you're
wind is wearing over
right,
your face.
right. Whereas if you do not have to work and but you have access to hundreds of thousands of dollars in any given year, you can work on not just being good looking, but like you can work on the first impression type
Mhm.
side of things, right? You can get blowouts, you can get um, nail work done, plastic surgery done if you even need it, but
And your clothes come perfectly tailored, which I think is a huge part of it.
it's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But I don't know. I don't like, I actually think there's no problem with pretty privilege. Like, I think if you're really beautiful, I mean, I feel more sympathetic to very beautiful people just naturally. Like, I think it's a human thing. And like, if you're going to use that, like, go for it. Go for it.
Use the gifts God gave you. Yeah.
I only know one guy who I would say has pretty privilege, and that's Martin Jernberg.
That's a fact. Yeah.
Like, but really, and like I've thought about it, I'm like, there's a reason why he can live the lifestyle he does. You can cut this out of the
Wait, are we on?
Turn this on.
Damn, we're on. Shout out to Martin. We should have him on the
I
podcast.
should.
Yeah. We should ask him about this segment. Be like, hey man, what's it like? What's it like having a privileged life the way you do?
Well, I don't, I mean, he's super talented and he's worked really hard. But I think there's also like the way I've seen people respond to him, like it's different than the way I think people respond to just like your average Joe. But you know what? His mom fed her sons on a strictly all natural, I think organic diet
Hmm.
and like very traditionally prepared foods. I have the cookbook actually, and I'm like, that's probably 99% of that. Eating those good foods in utero, you're gonna have better
Yeah,
bone structure.
that's gonna help a lot.
Yeah. So,
Is that
It's
nourishing
gonna
traditions?
yes.
Yeah, my mom
nurturing
does that.
traditions.
Yeah, featuring
Wait,
her
did
son.
did did Mrs. Jernberg write this book?
No, no, no,
Oh, she
no. But
just
she's
she
just
just
like,
modeled it in her own life.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually an awesome cookbook. But it's like there are recipes, but the things that are fun
But the real recipe is how to have beautiful children.
there's like all these like kind of catty asides about like the modern diet and modern living and It's just kind of great to read.
Wow.
I flip through it all the time. I've never made anything in the cookbook though, so we'll see how David does.
Like, I don't know, David, keep studying hard. I can't guarantee you life's just going to be given to you. I don't know that I kept MSG out of everything.
Well, at a certain point when you're pregnant, you're like, give me the fried chicken tenders from Safeway now. And that's all you eat.
Wow.
So I hope that he's not mostly made of that kind of
Fried chicken tenders.
grease and
Yeah.
yeah. But
Man, if he develops a lazy eye, like you're gonna be like, oh no, too many tenders. Is her mic where you want it, or should we point it a little bit?
You could probably bring it a little closer.
Yeah, I think you're good.
yeah, I've been
So-
like subconsciously like shifting away.
No, think about it this way. It's like if you can, you should avoid doing something for the first time.
What?
Yeah. So like,
Wait, what do you mean by that?
as in like,
How is that possible?
exactly. So you have to iterate. So you have to just say like, okay, this is our first episode. Maybe it
you're
won't be
giving
perfect.
Life advice.
I am giving you life advice, Yes.
I like that.
specifically to your podcast career. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
No.
first of many.
Oh yes, yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll talk about people, whatever you want.
Got the hot goss going. Yeah. The Lander gossip. They don't call it slander lander for nothing.
Wait, that's a term?
Have you not been victimized by the slander lander life cycle?
I don't know.
It starts when you're seen at a restaurant with a member of the opposite sex, which is basically impossible because all of our restaurants are basically within full view of Main Street.
Well, I
Yeah.
did have a very awkward situation.
Okay.
Oh.
Maybe I shouldn't.
Tell
I'll share
you-
that later.
All right. All right. We'll
Yeah.
we'll put it. No.
Unless I'm like
We'll put.
an alias.
Well, I will. I just
Not yet.
because the person that the story is involved may listen to this,
Mm.
Oh,
so I don't want to.
yeah.
We, w-
Joe Rogan, though.
we don't want to lose a
No.
subscriber.
Yeah. Hard to come by.
Yeah. What would Joe Rogan do? Yeah. WWJD. Indeed. Mm-hmm.
I don't like that.
No. Oh, that's a little
A little too
sacrilegious.
close.
A little too close. Yeah. Well, there's
You'd find many adherents for that
many.
wristband.
Well, whatever we have to do to grow the audience, you know what I mean? Like Tom was talking to me a couple of months ago and he said, "Oh yeah, like this company reached out, to Tom, talking about some product placement." And like I promise you, I had not been thinking about like making money through endorsements or sponsorships or anything. Like I promise you that had not crossed my mind. And Tom said like, "Oh, this company reached out to us. They just wanted to put something on his website. They weren't actually looking to have us endorse it through the podcast." But nonetheless, in one instant, I was ready to be like, "Oh, like what product do I have to pitch in order to get the revenue?" Like my greed like was just born up instantly into my consciousness so quickly. It even took me by surprise. Like an out of body experience. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am ready to pitch whatever whatever product these folks want me to pitch."
What was it?
Oh, I don't know. What was it, Tom? I can't even remember.
It wasn't
Don't
actually.
say that. Oh my gosh.
Well, they didn't actually want to sponsor us, so why?
Now they never will.
They wanted us to pay them money to be on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Like, we'll help you get more followers if you pay us.
oh, classic.
And we were like, well, no. But
Hey, you're already being targeted by like weird spam people.
this is true.
It's a
You
good
don't-
sign.
That's the first step.
Yeah.
Mhm. The first step is being notorious to people who want your money. So, yeah. All right. So we're gonna have to put a pause on this story, Tom, I guess.
Yeah,
From what you
I'll tell
okay.
it in the interview.
All right. All right.
That's,
All
that's a
right.
good one.
So the slander lander life cycle is you get seen by the public just like out on the deck of Molinos or sitting at Gannett, or like even if you're at Cowfish, like it's pretty hard to avoid going
That's
to
why you gotta
dinner.
go to Riverton.
Yeah, but where are you going to go in Riverton?
Mount Everest Cafe. Okay,
That's true. That's
they should
true.
sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, the lamb
we charge?
korma is actually fire.
I have never loved a restaurant more than Mount Everest Cafe, and I have lived in a lot of places.
That's like a lot.
They are so tasty. Their food is so tasty, and the staff is so diligent and kind. And I just support them. Chef's Group, called Chef's Group. It's like all one word.
Wow.
That's group.
Man, are they sponsoring this video? Because that was like a great endorsement right
I wish they were.
That's some quality UGC if I ever saw
there. All right, let's say this.
Go to Riverton is
Yeah.
to go to Mount Everest Cafe. It's so
All right,
good.
next episode, we will get takeout from Mount Everest, and we are going to eat it on camera. Damn it, you know that.
I gotta bring you back as a guest.
Oh, we can
Yeah,
totally do
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah, next time you're on, we'll get Mount Everest, and we'll just eat it right here, and it'll be a fantastic episode. I don't know what we'll say
Tears
besides.
will be streaming down
Yeah,
our face
yeah.
from this place.
Yeah. No, that's for my office in Riverton. Like that's our new favorite place to go. Yeah.
It's the only 5-star restaurant in Riverton. And by 5-star, I mean 5 Google stars.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive.
Do they serve all meals?
I think they're only lunch
it's-
buffet
yeah.
and then dinner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no breakfast. So, no, we should go there. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, if like we go and like see a movie out in Riverton or something, we could go a little early, swing by Mount Everest, and they're like very affordable too. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So,
That's one of the things like you want to eat out, but you're like,
Yeah.
I could make 5 meals for this.
I know.
But if you shop at Safeway, can you?
no, that's the truth.
You gotta go to Walmart.
Yeah, you do.
That's a
I know.
conspiracy.
It is.
Riverton's trying to get all the land rights.
I get so depressed when I'm in Safeway because I'm looking at the prices. I'm like, I honestly don't know if it would be cheaper to buy my food here than to eat out.
When you're one person, especially like
Yeah.
buying produce, I mean, even for like our little tiny family, it's not even worth it because it's gonna rot before I use it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Your family should get in on Elizabeth and I's Trader Joe's, the Trader Joe's club.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't even need to know the
So-
details.
So I go to Riverton Airport. I catch a standby flight out of Riverton, fly down to Denver, go to Trader Joe's, fill up a box with Trader Joe's stuff, go back to the airport, check my box of groceries, and then fly back to Riverton.
Okay, you need to,
So
you need to
yeah.
like elaborate a little bit on this standby flight thing because you clearly have some kind of hack that you're not telling me about.
My hack is that I got a really good buddy who's a pilot, and he put me on his his standby family, basically. So yeah, as long as there's an open seat, I can grab it, and then yeah, just fly anywhere domestically at no charge.
That's great.
So I can just go to Trader Joe's. And I always like show up late to the airport. I board last. So it really feels like I'm flying privately with a bunch of friends. And then I go to Trader Joe's and grab my groceries and fly home with them. So it's a great system. I don't know how long it will last. Yeah.
I feel like this is American Made Part 2.
American Made. What's American Made? Is that a movie?
Yeah, the one we watched with the cartel.
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 Yeah.
You're just running Trader Joe's up to Wyoming,
Right.
Colorado.
Right. Well, what else are you running up there, Jonathan? You know,
Yeah.
right? Trader
Yogurt
Joe's.
for pretzels.
Yeah.
Oh.
Trader Smokes. You know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else are you bringing into the state? Ugh. Mm. No, just the
Honestly, if
just
you're not
the-
checking.
cheese. It's just cheese.
I gotta-
For anyone listening, we're just bringing prosciutto and dried apricots and cheese.
I've heard that you can smuggle live animals on your person because the X-ray machine doesn't detect them, but I've never tried it.
Oh, are you gonna send David through the X-ray machine?
An animal. He's my little man.
And I love him and he loves me. Yeah. Okay. So what, like, we're talking squirrels?
I thought about it once when I had a pet rat.
Oh,
You might remember.
I do.
Yeah.
Got a pet rat?
He was amazing.
Really?
Yeah. Are we gonna talk about Robert?
I guess I've always been a little creeped out by rats in general.
I can see why, because they're so little and also so smart. And it's like a little bit
Mm,
concerning. And also they have that long tail.
The long tail gets
long tail.
But I think the tail's kind of cute actually. It's got like little tiny little hairs. And they like use it as like an appendage to balance when they're like walking on something a little narrow, or like they'll wrap it around your finger.
Can they curl it around something like really tight or
Not
not?
like it's not prehensile,
Okay.
but they can kind of do that. Like
Okay.
he's wrapped it around my finger like before when he's feeling like, whoa. I'm using the present tense.
When he's feeling a little woozy. Robert is gone, right?
He has been gone for a while.
Robert's gone. Their lifespan's only like 3 years.
Yeah, and
Is that
he
weird? Because squirrels, it's like 25.
really?
Yeah.
25 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay,
I'm not saying in the wild they always live that long, but like,
they definitely don't make it
but
that
pet squirrels will live into their 20s.
long.
Hmm.
Well, they're a lot bigger than rats. They're like twice as big.
Okay.
I don't know if that
How does that?
lower metabolism maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. No, the variation in mammalian lifespans is astounding. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard the oldest living
Because
cat.
guinea. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The oldest living cat on record was 38.
Gosh.
That's too old.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't. Yeah. You think their owners could believe it? Be like, oh my gosh, we were not planning on this.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be gone when the kids went to college.
Since he was 90.
20 years of feline incontinence, and now we can't sell our house. Yeah. So the stains are everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. So like humans can pass 100. They do so pretty often. I think elephants can get into their 80s. Does that sound?
Tortoises and the African gray parrots live a really long time too.
Sure, sure. I was
I guess
thinking
a
of mammal.
tortoise is
I was
not.
thinking mammals specifically.
You're
But
right.
it is true that yeah, yeah. Okay, so vertebrate lifespans vary wildly.
How long do you think blue whales live?
I want to say 60s, but it's not like I'm following them around day by day. Yeah,
Hard to guess.
hard to guess. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, tortoises, obviously. I think tortoises and sharks. Apparently, there's like a 375-year-old shark swimming around
Whoa.
in the North Atlantic.
Oh, I saw a picture of that shark and
It's not looking great.
it was ugly.
That,
It looked
that shark has
great.
not had any luck on Tinder for a long time. It may still be swimming, but no one's swiping right. Pass. Yeah. No, that is an ugly shark. Oh. Yeah, but what are they do? Yeah, what does it do? 375 years.
I think it just does everything really slowly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably lives
Yeah.
in really cold water and doesn't expend a lot of energy.
Right, right.
Living
Yep.
a cold therapy life.
Yeah, it only feels like it's 50.
I don't know. The expression on its face made me think that shark was thinking, I should have gone out when the pirates were still around, 150 years was plenty. Yeah, now I have to deal with oil spills, It's a worse oceanic life. Huh. I don't know.
There was a tortoise I saw that's over 200 years old right now.
Mhm.
Wow, you saw it.
Well, a video, but yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he's big boy. He's probably he's one of those really big ones,
Okay.
But they were like giving the dates of all the things he's lived through, and it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Kind of neat to see.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. I remember there was like a story about, we know how old one of these giant Galapagos tortoises is, excuse me, because like some sailor like carved the date into the shell.
Okay,
Whoa.
that was a prank.
But I was like, wait, no, that's exactly my point. I was like, how do we know that sailor didn't just be like, oh, 1598, and it was like the 1820s.
Yeah.
Like how can we trust that guy, right? some like 19-year-old sailor with a penknife, you know? Like, how do we know that he was putting the correct date on
And he
there?
was carving into a tortoise.
He
Already
was-
questions there.
Yeah, exactly. He used his free time off the boat to carve numbers into tortoises, and we're like, oh, that's part of the historical record, you know? That seems a little suspicious to me. Oh, we need to question that guy. Mm. But yeah, no, the term for this is negligible obsolescence. Excuse me, no. Negligible. It's not obsolescence. It's senescence, I think. So it's like negligible aging. So apparently, naked mole rats are the only mammals that exhibit this, where like those very close to the end of their lifespan will be just as vigorous and um, like sexually active as the much younger
Have you
generations.
seen a naked mole rat before?
I have seen a naked mole rat.
So I don't even question that for a second.
Okay, there's
I would never want to get close to another naked mole rat if I was a naked mole rat. So I could see that being a very static color.
like there's just no change in attractiveness. Yeah.
Their teeth are like weirdly outside of their mouth.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're very weird looking.
Yeah, they are ugly. Yeah, negligible senescence, I think. Yeah, yeah. So parrots, I guess, have it. Naked mole rats have it. These tortoises have it, and there's a few other animals where it's like there's no discernible difference. Like you have to know when they were born to actually know how old they are, as opposed to many other animals where you can tell by all sorts of physical signs.
So one day
So.
they just drop dead.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. I think that's what the article was saying is that they just dropped dead it one day and like from some sort of heart failure, I guess. So, yeah. And so of course these scientists are trying to figure out like how could we bring that into the human lifespan?
I
Oh,
think getting older is cool. I mean, you got to have some variety in your existence.
some variety.
Otherwise, it'd be like the same, like endless, meaningless parade,
Hmm.
you know?
Oh.
What would that be like? Yeah. If you were
Imagine being an 80-year-old but looking like a 25-year-old. But everybody who's 80 also looks like they're 25. So
Hmm.
you go to a bar and you sit next to some 25-year-old and you find out they're actually 75. Like that's just,
It would really mess up things.
yeah, it would be weird.
It would be weird. Yeah. Well, it would be weird for us. I guess if you grew up in that environment, it wouldn't feel weird. But then, yeah, I mean, I guess it
Are you
would be
concerned
odd.
about aging, Jonathan?
What?
Are you concerned about aging?
This might be my melancholic Irish temperament coming out, but I think about aging every day. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep.
but in a bad way?
I think it's a mixture. Um, yeah, I think there's something in the melancholic soul that's just sort of sensitive to the passage of time. The
You're definitely hilarious.
irretrievability of time.
Don't you
Yeah.
think so?
I, I actually don't understand those terms very well.
I feel,
Like
okay, yeah,
sanguine, choleric, melancholic, I don't know.
I probably don't either because I wasn't homeschooled and only was introduced to them within the last like 4 years.
Okay.
But I have my own understanding of what they mean and by my interpretation.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, it's interesting. I am really bad judge of age for some reason.
Okay.
I sometimes think I'm like that person's got to be in their 20s. I found out in their 30s, or 30s in their 40s or 50s. I'm like, what?
Wait, sorry. Are you saying you've sometimes been 2 decades off?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Well, just like, yeah, I've seen some people. I'm like, there's no way they're that old.
Uh-huh.
They look too good to be that old, you know?
Yeah.
Like I have some friends at the gym, and I'm like, there's no way you're that old. Like you don't look it.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I don't. Maybe.
If your hair stays call it your natural color, if you don't go gray, that can be a huge throw off for
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
Or if you go gray early that similarly. Like like Travis is barely into his 30s, but he's mostly gray, and so he could probably pass for a decade older than he is.
Yeah.
But
Um,
with such smooth skin.
Smooth skin is it's a gift. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a gift. So I did once get complimented on my skin while I was volunteering at a nursing home, which was an odd experience.
You
Yeah,
do have great skin.
thank you, thank you. It's good to get that compliment outside of the nursing home. No, so like in college, like there was a group of us that we would go up to the nursing home to just spend time with the residents and honestly just talk to them, or listen to them, as the case may be. So I was just sitting there, and this woman who worked there, so she wasn't one of the residents. She walks up and she says, "Oh my goodness, are you Thai?" And I'm like, "Am I Thai? Am I?" I mean, I was like 19. I don't think I even realized it was like a reference to a nationality. I was
Oh,
like, "Am I tying something?" She's like, "No, no, no. Are you Asian?" I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "You have great skin." I was like, "Oh, well, thank you." Oh, that was my comfort when I went bald. I was like, at least it reveals more of this great skin of mine. Yeah,
I thought you were like half Asian when I met you.
many people do. Yeah.
That's because also I learned Rinju's name and your last name at the same time. So for like about 6 months, I thought your name was Jonathan Rinju,
Oh, Jonathan Rinju.
which definitely sounds Asian, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've had friends who've thought I was partially Asian for like months. You know,
mm.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely happened. I've had Filipino people come up to me and ask if I was Filipino. Yeah, and that's happened
Wow.
multiple times. So,
I used to get it a lot when I was little because I had a really round face
uh-huh.
and my eyes were always very
You were always
squinty.
squinting at
Yeah.
people. What's your deal? Huh. Huh.
I apparently look Russian.
Hmm.
I could see it.
Like the big forward brow. You can't see the tops of my eyes. It's just brow, you
It's
know?
just hidden under the shadow of your
Yeah.
massive brain.
Yeah.
It is.
And then square jawline. Very Russian.
Yeah, I got to admit, Tom,
But
you got a great jawline.
nice.
Yeah. Wow. Hmm. Where were we? We got kind of off track.
We did.
Yeah,
We
we have
talked
Yeah,
about the
we were trying to talk
toys.
about Slenderlander, but then we talked
Slenderlander.
about negligible senescence.
I didn't know
So,
about Slenderlander either.
oh really?
Yeah.
I think if you're a member of the Catholic circles, probably you're somewhat insulated from it, right? Which I think is a good thing because yeah. So, but
Well, it's
anyway,
kind of like the church pew situation if you're in college. Like, if you want your life to end, just sit next to a girl you're not dating. Everyone is like, so how long have you been seeing each other? Like,
Oh
as
my
you walk
God.
out of the church, like, mass has ended, they're like coming up to you, like, okay, how long has it been? Like, what are your feelings for each other?
wow.
And you're like,
They were good up until now.
I don't know if this is still a strategy. In my college days, it was a bit of a strategy, and when I say a bit, I mean like some people tried it. But like if you wanted to signal your interest in someone, you would go up to them at mass and sit next to them at mass, like maybe before you ask them out.
whoa.
Which I think is a bold strategy.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
pretty
that.
bold
Yeah.
because if you're that girl, you know. And what are you gonna do? Say, no, you can't sit next to me in the house of the Lord?
Maybe you just like scoot, like very subtly scoot over. And when he like flips out the book of readings and offers to like,
Mm.
let you read along, you get your own book.
The cold, hard world.
Yeah. I will read this passage from Corinthians myself. Thank you very much.
It doesn't have gold pages. Mine does.
Mhm. Yeah, it's tough. No, I honestly think this is something that young men would benefit from if there was a reestablishment of like I don't want to use courtship, but I think there's no other term to use. But basically, if there was basically courtship rituals that were more commonly accepted and used so that you could very definitely
Mm.
signal interest or non-interest. Um, I think that would take some stress off because I have, because in the absence of a specific cultural set of rituals, people's attempts to advise younger people have been so all over the map that I think there can be confusion on how to act, and there can be confusion on how to receive anything. I remember someone in full seriousness saying like, you should admire someone for their virtue, you should admire someone for their way of behaving in the community. And so like when you approach them, it should be out of this place of admiration. And so it should be this very I want to say cerebral as the descriptor. But they fully seriously said like it should be a bit of a surprise to her that you're even interested because it should come from this place of admiration first and foremost. So like when you approach, it's not from this place of basically flirtation and dropping hints. And they were fully serious about it. Whereas there are people who I think are equally well-meaning who are like, no, you can't just like walk up to someone and say like, let's go out. Like you have to sort of go through this flirtationship ritual, right? Where you basically signal interest so you get her thinking about you before you actually make the ask. I'm not taking a position one side or the other, but I am saying this type of advice is being given to young people from from people inside the community. It's like, golly, depending on who you listen to, it'd be very difficult to know how to act, and it would be very difficult to know how to receive these signals of interest.
And now we have Tinder, which is even more
And
confusing.
then you can get online, in which case the online thing is interesting because it sort of takes away the awkward approach, right? Like if you're on the site, everyone's there presumably because they're interested in meeting someone, and you're on there presumably because you're interested in meeting someone. So I don't know if that, man, does that kind of cheapen it? Because anyone can approach anyone online, right? You can approach people that you may not, frankly, have the guts to approach in a more natural
Mm.
social setting.
That's true. But speaking as a woman, I would say that my experience with online dating was that the men were never as serious because it was like you're just like kind of like a piece of cheese on a platter among many other
How
pieces of
many
cheese.
and fruit. I like.
Really yummy apricots. I want you to get those from Turkey.
Those exotic Turkish apricots, you know.
But I think that
They're
that was
wrinkly.
the thing I found a lot was
Okay.
that there wasn't as much of this feeling of like pursuit.
Okay.
Like, you would arrange to meet and have a date or whatever, have a great conversation, continue like texting,
Hmm.
but this like sense of like, oh, I chose you out of every single woman I've ever met because you are the one I want. Like that never really existed in any of the online dates that I went on.
Okay.
Um, and I ended up like more or less successfully online dating. Like I had a couple relationships that lasted like almost a year. But I never felt like certain that at the end of the day, that man would have chosen me if I was just sitting at a bar by myself.
Hmm.
And like that's what I wanted. I wanted to know that out of all of the women that were possible, he risked everything to secure me and my interest.
Hmm.
And honestly, like it's almost unfair to the guy because if that's what I want, I'm never gonna find that online. Like I'm never gonna know the answer to that question unless I like broke up with him and then went to a bar and then 5 years later he saw me there. Like, um,
I
so
knew this was meant to be. Hmm.
yeah, and I think many women feel that way. That like it's not about I mean, the game is really fun and like the flirtation is really fun and the not knowing part, like the agony of it is actually really fun too.
Because it's at least interesting.
Yeah, it's
More,
interesting.
yeah, more interesting than going to work every day and having to fill out like expense reports.
Well, you're gonna still have to do that even when you have the
But it
girl.
gives you something to think about,
Yeah, right.
right?
That's true. Yeah. Jonathan, your answers are all wrong. I have to redo these reports.
Right.
But
I know that wasn't a business meeting.
and like, I don't know, I hear this story so many times that like for a lot of guys that I know who ended up finding somebody, and for me, this is how it happened too. Like the guy sees a girl, maybe isn't even thinking of dating, or maybe is interested in someone else at the time, or whatever, is in whatever stage of that whole journey, and then sees the girl and is like, oh, the scales have fallen from my eyes. You're the one, and I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to marry you. And like that's what every woman wants. Like the genuine like desire to secure her, like no other woman matters, you know?
She wants the man to basically have that pearl of great price
Yeah.
experience where
Yeah.
it's like, yep, yep, I don't care what it costs me. It might cost me everything, but that is better than all the things I'm giving up. Even if I don't have it, even if I don't get it, even if I don't gain it, the pursuit of it would be worth more than everything I'm leaving behind. Ah, that's powerful.
Well, I mean, think about it. Men go to war for their countries, right?
Hmm.
It's the same idea. Like, I think there's like an inherent heroic quality in masculinity
Hmm.
that that's like really women really respond to it. It's beautiful and tragic at times, like in the case of war, but
Right. Yeah. And you think that's harder online, or you can meet someone, you could start a relationship with them, but the online format makes it pretty difficult for them to demonstrate that level of commitment.
if you're the woman, yeah, are you ever gonna know for sure that that guy really felt that way about you, or or are you just convenient?
Damn, that's hard. Right. So yeah, so you would have to eventually meet in person and probably end up being in the same city at least for a while so that you could have that day to day. So you could go through all the sort of checks in the course of a relationship that gets you to the point of, oh, this person's really committed. I'm ready to commit to them
I
because they're committed to me.
I don't think I'd ever feel it though.
Really?
Yeah, I
Even if
think
like you met online, but then like then they moved, they moved to your city, they like did sort of all the things in person. It's just that you
those
happen
are
to have
like
met there.
those are like things that one could do anyway for ordinary circumstances,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so like I'm not saying this as a rational being or what I think the virtuous way of being would be, but I just know personally that I would always hesitate to trust that level of commitment. Um, and I would probably always want to test it in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing I've noticed is like you only get one initial message too. So it's like if they don't respond, there's no way to pursue them. That's another thing. It's like it's not like a guy can like keep seeing you or doing whatever to like try to get your attention if he sees you out there.
Oh, that
It's
is
like
interesting.
if she doesn't like your message and doesn't respond, you have no other
You're
choice.
limited to your first impression.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so you know what works? It's so seedy. What really works is if you, in your initial message, say something to the effect of, "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and I have to meet you." Like, even if it sounds like, even if
Wow.
it's not even true, because there are definitely, there are sleazy guys that will use that, and it's like really effective.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, if you
So
say
interesting.
that, the woman's gonna be like, "Oh, really? Tell me more." You
Tom,
know?
there's your secret. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
get on tomorrow, tell
Just
30
yeah.
tell 30 different women. Ooh, you're the most beautiful.
I don't know if that works so well, Lander. Compare notes.
What you get?
Like,
Oh.
Right.
one message, right? Like, go big or go home.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
only have one chance to convince them that they're the one you've been looking for your whole life.
It's interesting.
But like you should probably like have an inkling that that might be the case.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You should only say this to people whom it might actually be true.
I mean, if you could say things that will like evoke the same kind of response that are like a little more subtle, like you have the most beautiful smile I've ever seen, or like, I don't know, you know, something
Yeah.
along those lines.
So you're saying basically something superlative. Basically, the man has to signal to her that in her he sees something truly one of a kind,
The highest thing.
the highest.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't have to be physical beauty, although that's an obvious category, but it could be, wow, I never thought I'd find someone who combines an interest in horses with an interest in with music. Right. Like you are the only one who has that combination. That's why I'm reaching out to you.
Yeah.
So it has right something that literally singles her out from the crowd.
Mhm.
And again, it could be something physical, but it might also be something else.
Honestly, physical probably. Here's the thing. Women, speaking as a woman, are incredibly competitive with each other and themselves about their physical appearance because they're very aware of their biological clocks. So, like the process of aging and physical beauty is like a hallmark of that, right? Um, like their fertility is written on their face. And so they know that they're competing with like this sea of other women that are, equally or maybe even more fertile or more appealing. And they have to find somebody who will give them babies before they can't.
Mm.
And so, like, the physical qualities are like what they are most insecure about and most looking for praise in. Even though it sounds really superficial, it's just like true.
But do you think part of it is so part of the appeal of the physical is that they know that there's all this competition out there. They know that there's always someone younger. So part of the appeal of a man showing an interest in her physical qualities is the signaling that he is willing to limit his his baby making to her.
Mhm.
Right. And like that's part of the appeal of like, wow, he sees something so special in me that he's willing to take the risk that he can only have X number of offspring with me, or maybe none, right? Because there's no guarantee that everyone can have children. And so that's part of the appeal beyond, oh, I'm super impressed that you also like Ayn Rand.
Right.
Like, okay, great, but you can probably find someone else to talk about Ayn Rand with you,
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
might even be a man,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. But when you combine the things, like when you're like, wow, you're incredibly gorgeous, I have to meet you. And also, I feel like we have so much in common
Mm.
intellectually. Then the woman's like, not only do you find me beautiful now, but there's also some security like that will keep you interested in me longer.
Online dating consulting. This could be your next career.
Any of the guys that I ever online
Yeah.
dated are listening right now. Like, oh my God.
No, it didn't work yeah, they didn't listen. They didn't know your advice, yeah.
I hope they're
They
all doing well and have found women and are happily married with children.
right. I hope they have all learned the lesson to compliment, right? Their incredible eyes. It is interesting, right? There are certain physical features that it's socially acceptable to compliment. The eyes would be the obvious example.
I'm just thinking of the list of ones that are not.
Right, but then there's the ones that are not, what I mean, all right?
Well, you
Yeah.
could like pull your tie card and be like, oh, sorry, English is fine. In
Yeah.
my culture, it's acceptable.
Right. If you told someone, "Wow, you have great hair," they'd be like, "Oh, thank you." If you said to someone like, "You've got great fingernails," they'd be like, "What?"
I actually have gotten that. I mean,
You
like
have
from
gotten.
another woman.
Okay.
And I remember just being like, I didn't even know that about
Right.
her. I'm like, they're really ratty right now. I don't even know if she was honest.
Just saying it. Yeah. No, it is interesting how there's like certain, yeah, there are obvious ones, which I'm not going to say here, but it is also like if you said to someone like, "Oh, you have great collarbones," they'd be like, "Huh," you know,
Yeah.
versus like, "Oh, wow, you have an amazing smile,"
Mm.
right? I guess basically, yeah. If you compliment something on someone's face, it's pretty much acceptable. Anywhere else, it's much more touch and go. Yeah.
And honestly, depending on the woman's receptivity at that moment in time,
Hmm.
you can get away with saying some pretty off-color things on the first pass.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
fair.
saying you should,
All
but
right. Okay, Tom, you got to get online, man. Next, you got to report back.
I do.
You got to put
Yeah.
these strategies into
Yeah.
practice and let us know how well they work.
down the door.
This could be the episode that
This could
takes us to
be.
the next level because like
Yeah.
wow, we revealed so many secrets, you know.
Well, I think that's honestly in the back of every guy's mind is like, what? Because they're kind of like asking, what is it that's turning her off from me? You
Mm.
know, because everyone's trying to figure it out all the time. And I think
You
it's,
think men specifically are saying what is holding me back? They're not thinking like, oh, what's putting me putting me into competition. They're thinking what's keeping me out of competition.
I think so.
Okay. It's frankly it's a negative focused mindset for good or ill.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Because I think usually guys are like, well, I don't have the status, the looks, or the charm are like
Mm.
the three things.
Oh, that's interesting.
So,
Those are the three things.
because it's like everything a guy does is really to impress a woman somehow, some way. It's like, it's like we get nice cars because we want to, like, in hopes that that will lead to something better. That hopefully being,
Right.
unless it's like a collector's.
And men who are not doing it with those things in mind, we call obsessed, different, autistic, right? Like if a man is interested in math just for the math, we tend to think
Okay, what men are interested in math for the women?
Nerds?
Oppenheimer?
I did
Feynman?
not watch that movie, so I don't know anything about it.
Feynman?
Heinemann? Yeah.
You know about Feynman? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that guy was just a little arrogant, though, honestly.
It
Well,
wasn't, yeah. I read his book and I was like, wasn't like, wow.
okay, so
Yeah.
sorry, Tom, but you were saying so
Oh,
men often look at themselves and judge themselves to be lacking in one of these three major areas:
yeah.
status, looks, or charm.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
And usually it's like the guys that will get the charm generally will get a woman. Now, for the last long times, debatable. Guys that have status and charm usually make it the long haul because then they have the money to back up everything.
Mhm. This was so Andrew Schultz was who was he talking to? I Andrew Schultz was giving an interview and where he was basically saying, "Hey man, I was this broke comedian sleeping on friends' couches and I could find plenty of girls who were interested in being my girlfriend." And Andrew Schultz was saying what's this status thing that you're claiming to be so important? And I think his interviewer, maybe it was Rogan, I don't recall exactly, was pushing back and saying, "Hey, look, yeah, Andrew, when you were a broke comedian, maybe you didn't have the status, but you did have the charm, to a superlative degree, and so that's probably what you were using to succeed in meeting people who were interested in you."
Hmm.
So, right.
I don't know if any of those things are important, really.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess you need to have some amount of charm to be able to engage in a conversation with somebody.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I think most people meet that threshold. And status changes over your lifetime. So, like, I mean, especially if you're finding someone young and getting married young, like the woman's kind of taking a bet on your future
His
status.
future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not necessarily what you have right now. And then looks do not matter.
Mm.
What really, like, seriously, like, I think I've found incredibly ugly men attractive because they're interested in me.
Huh.
And I mean, like, that's really what it comes down to. Like, if you're sure that you want to date somebody, like, you absolutely want to date that girl, you're gonna, you're not gonna second guess. Like, you're gonna go for it, you know? And I think that's what women find the most attractive. Just that like putting it all on the table. Like even if you reject me, I'm coming back. And like if a woman knows that you're gonna come back if she rejects you, she's probably not gonna reject you, you know?
Yeah.
I think that is different for in the experience of men and women. I think men are more able to say like, "Oh, that didn't work." I think they're more willing to say, "Well, I'll move on," right? Um, and contrary wise, I've never heard of a man say like, "Oh, why are we married today?" She just kept liking me and liking me and liking me, and eventually I was like, "Okay," right? So do you think women are more open to the idea of like, wow, if a man signals interest over the long term, I have to take that into an account in a way that men maybe don't take long, consistent interest into account? Well,
Absolutely.
so what's the appeal there?
Well, why would it make sense for the woman to be the pursuer? Like her job
In
is
our
to be,
culture, it's not that's not the tradition. That's for sure.
is there a culture in which that is the tradition?
None that I know of. Yeah.
I just don't think it biologically makes sense.
Mm.
Like a woman kind of has to sit still for a long period of time, you know? Like you gotta make a baby, you gotta raise the baby, you know?
Mm.
You're not out like hunting down. Like I think it's in
Mm.
men's nature to be like in pursuit of
In
something
pursuit.
directional, and women's nature more to be receptive.
Hmm. I wonder if that's why the majority of successful salespeople are men.
Probably.
Yeah, that right. And you could be selling anything. You could be selling fidget spinners, right? But men are very comfortable in like, well, I know they've said no to me 6 times, but by golly, I'll call them again, you know.
Yeah.
And that's there's a certain type of man for whom that is cold calls, repeated sales pitches, going to people who have rejected you, and they're totally fine with it.
Well, like the single-minded decision-making quality is really attractive in a man.
Oh, interesting.
When you're like, okay, that man is literally only choosing this one thing, no matter what the cost is.
Hmm.
Like, and I think men tend to do that in life. I mean, even in a conversation, like I can tell you between me and Jack, like if Jack is not listening to me and I'm telling him something, he will not start listening to me because his mind is on something else and it's just there already. I can't just be in the background, like chatting about dinner and expect that any of that's going into his mind, you know?
Interesting.
Huh.
Wow.
I mean, I guess that, yeah. I'm thinking of people, like relationships I know of. And like I know a few where it was like the girl kept saying no, 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 and then finally the guy broke through. And I know of others where it's like the girl really liked the guy and then he finally asked her out and then they stayed together. So
Hmm.
I feel like I feel like when guys see the one girl and they like go for her, they like what you're saying, seeing the superlative in them, like the really goodness thing. I think a lot of times when the girl likes the guy and the guy likes the girl, they're just like they love just spending time with each other. It's not like I have my I set on this one princess. It's more like, oh, I really like this girl, but it's not like she's my princess yet, you know, if that makes sense.
Like we're just really good friends.
Yeah, and they just start to date. Because that's what I know a couple of friends like that where they're like, yeah, he just always wanted to hang out, so we started dating, and I really like him, you know. But
Hmm.
it wasn't like the guy was like breaking down the door, you know.
There was never this
Interesting.
moment where the guy went into basically this pursuit mode.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, that girl was interested in him,
Hmm.
even though he had never displayed these pursuit markers.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe that's
Right.
why like
I'll drive through the night just to spend one day with you, that sort of thing, and then I'll drive home.
But like, okay, so I know of one couple kind of similar to what you're saying where they were really good friends. And I realize now that since we're on this podcast, I'm not going to say any more names out loud.
oh, I doubt anyone's gonna listen to
Okay.
the
Oh.
no, no, no. You can let me finish. People's names are mentioning would listen to this one. People listen. You better
Yeah.
be listening.
Well, it's the Spence, Dan and Allie Spence. And they were really good friends. And eventually Dan was like, I want to date you. And Allie was like, I'm not really into you. he was like, well, I can't continue to be friends with you then because it's too painful. And then they kind of stopped being friends for a while. And then she was like, this actually kind of sucks. I
Hmm.
really miss being friends with him. And then they started dating after that point. But I still feel like there was a point at which
Mm.
he was like, no, I will not settle for this level of relationship with you. I would rather throw it away at the risk of having the higher thing. So there's still a quality of
Yeah,
like that pursuit there.
loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Hmm. Yeah.
maybe there's a lot to that wisdom of just, yeah, like giving it all up for the one thing you really desire. I wonder if that's because it's almost like everything in life is this type of sacrifice, like triaging everything else for this one thing at the moment. And I feel like that's what God tried to teach us. Is like this is what life is about. When you grow into maturity, you're letting go of lesser goods for better goods.
Yeah.
And then when you finally reach the age for marriage, it's like you got to give it all up to actually win her heart, and then it all comes back. It's almost like a Job story. So like you give it all up, but she'll give it all back to you by being your life.
Yeah, that's so true. That's really beautiful.
I wish I think what the frustrating thing about being a guy, at least for me personally, is when um yeah, like those unknown mistakes you make that turns people off and you're like, oh no. And you don't have anyone to really talk to because they weren't there in the moment to see like what happened. You can't really ask the girl now, like, can you give me like some
So what?
feedback,
Like,
you know?
Getting wrong.
you can't go to the people who decided to never call you back.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But honestly, it doesn't, the thing is, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't actually, like, kind of what you were saying about triaging everything in your life, for, like, the next moment, the next step. I think, like, when it is time, that woman will be there and you will be ready to do that sacrifice or that, like, leap of faith for her. And, like, everything else is just kind of practice until that moment. And
Mm.
so, like, when it's the right time and when you're ready to do that move, like that all or nothing gamble, whatever, you won't make a mistake because the things that you do that are awkward or off-putting to another woman won't be in that moment to that woman.
Oh,
Like,
that brings a lot of hope.
it's a lot of stupid things, but I love him to pieces. Like, it's like he told me he wanted to marry me on our first date, and I was like, okay, to say.
How do you respond to that?
Uh, he said it in a kind of like veiled way. He was like, "Do you think two people could ever like just agree to make it work no matter what?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's marriage." And he was like, "You want to do that?" And
Damn.
I was like, "Wow."
Jack. Wow, shout out to Jack. That is bomber.
So like I never had any doubt, like from the beginning that he was ready to put it all on the line.
Hmm.
And it was terrifying, and like so I had the ability to be like, oh, I don't know, like maybe I should just like leave. But like I think that's something, I mean, my sister went through the same process with her husband. They met at a party and it was just like love at first. I actually saw it happen. It was insane. Um, and they met like, I don't know, a couple days later after the party. Like he was like, "Hey, do you want to go to this music store with me?" And she got there first. She could see him walking up to the store from like from the street. And she was like looking at a guitar or something. And there was a back entrance and she was like really tempted to just sneak out and leave because she was scared because she knew that if she stayed and they talked that they would get married. It's like a huge, like she just,
Wow.
because he was so serious about her. And it's just like this, like when you have it in front of you,
But
you're like,
she,
whoa.
okay, she knew that he was serious about her, but she also had an inkling of the compatibility.
Right.
Right.
But even when you feel super compatible as a woman, you're still scared. It's like a big deal, right?
Mm,
But like the thing is when it's right, you're not gonna run away. Like I was like, oh, I can run away any second. I totally am free right now. But it wasn't true. Like
right.
from the
You,
moment
but
he
you stayed for
he
dessert.
I think like I think my heart was already bound by that before my mind realized it,
Okay.
which was wild.
Which is good, right? Right. There has to be this dance between the heart and the mind.
Hmm.
That yeah, maybe the heart assents to something, and then the mind does need to assent to it as well. Right. People get themselves into trouble when the mind is like, no, 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 no. But but the heart is allowed to, dominate inappropriately. But yeah, but then people have done the other thing where it's like, well, my mind says this is a good match because it checks all these boxes, and the heart is just not is not contained by this idea. And then, and then 5 years, 10 years later, that becomes tragically obvious that the heart was never congruent to what the mind said. Well, these boxes are checked by this relationship. So yeah, yeah. No, there has to be this collaborative dance between the two. Damn, man. Another shout out to Jack. I just love that. Oh,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It was so
Do you think two
interesting.
people? Yeah, right, right.
I think it's awesome
But
because
I
he's able to
wonder,
say that,
hmm,
knowing that might be a complete backfire.
Yeah.
right, right. Like, okay, I'm going to say this and it might lose me my chance. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember I remember having a similar experience with, um, sounds kind of corny to say it now, but all right, but I'll say it. I had a similar experience with jiu-jitsu. Um,
Expect-
no, so it's like I was in Belize. I had this incident with the guy with the machete waving the machete in my face and like just not knowing what to do. Which in my defense, I had never been in that situation before.
We never again.
I don't know. I feel like it's coming back. Yeah, I just feel like at some point there's going to be someone waving a weapon in my face again.
Most time you're just gonna tear the shirt off and just be tats. You're
Yeah,
like, you don't
exactly.
want
Yeah,
to
let's
do
go.
this.
I feel like in my real estate career, I feel like there's going to be a gun waved in my face at some point. I feel like that's coming.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
you
it
are in
is.
Riverton a lot.
I am in Riverton a lot. I look at, I go onto properties. I'm like, oh, hey, is this occupied? Is it not? Well, sometimes it is. But anyway, so I remember coming back from the US being like, all right, like I'm not gonna be so out of options in that situation again. I'm gonna get into martial arts. I'm gonna do jujitsu. Um, and I remember having that experience of I don't care what it costs me to learn this skill. I am going to learn it. And anyone could have said anything about why it was a bad idea, and I would be like, I don't care. Yeah, I'm not going to be caught. I'm not going to be caught with caught with a machete waved in my face again and have no idea how to conduct myself. So, and here I am 12 years later. So, so
Ready.
ready, ready. Right, but what has jiu-jitsu cost me? I mean, it's time, it's blood, it's sweat, it's tears, it's injuries. Like it has cost me a great deal, but would you trade it? No, you wouldn't. Oh, yeah. Although I love to say, like, as some like guy like is on top of me, like choking me out, I love saying like, I should have done chess. Yeah, as some like 25-year-old, 230-pound guy with daddy issues is like, I'm taking it out on you. Oh no, but it's fun. It's fun.
It's like something Spider-Man would say. He's like in a terrible situation, he's still making jokes.
Mhm. Right, right,
Just-
I should have
right.
done chess.
like,
Right. I should have collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards. No!
Not too late.
It's not too late. It's never too late. So, did you ever feel that way about art?
No, but I did feel that way about hiking.
Hiking.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, I think when you're in your early 20s and you are like, what do I do? I'm done with college. Like, where is all my athletic prowess going? What's the point of existence? And then you read about something like the Pacific Crest Trail. You're like, oh, just all came together for me in that moment.
Okay.
Um, no, with art, I never had really I just always drew, like ever since I was really little. I think a lot of kids draw
Hmm.
um, out of curiosity, exploration. I just never stopped. Although I haven't really drawn a
Oh
a
no.
little guy to chase around. Thought
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you trying to express when you drew, even as a kid, and then growing into, and you said you never stopped. So, I mean, there must have been something that it did for you as you grew up, grew into your adult life, that art was expressing something, or it was meditative, or,
Yeah, and it's changed over time. I would say, like, when I was very little, it was a tool that I would use to try to unravel complicated things, um, like birds' wings. That was a big thing for me. I didn't understand how they could like fit together and fold up so neatly on their back. So I would just
Mhm.
like constantly draw them to like try to puzzle it out visually.
How is something so big
Yeah,
able
like
to become so
what
small?
does it do? With like where do the feathers go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard for me to wrap my mind around it,
Hmm.
actually.
The engineering marvel of a
Yeah,
bird's wing.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that was like a big thing. And I would say that curiosity has kind of stayed, at least like as a secondary reason, for drawing, and painting. But now I would say there's like also a challenge aspect. Like when I see something incredibly beautiful, I feel like this call to meet it by trying to capture it myself. Like,
Mm.
Mm.
how do I see like these clouds with all their form and color and light and replicate that here in some capacity? And
Okay.
it's what's cool about it is that if you think of it as a challenge, there's no ceiling. It's kind of an infinite pursuit. I mean, because it's the world is infinitely beautiful, you know?
Uh, Is that to say that even in drawings or paintings you've done where you're actually very satisfied with it, even then you're
Sorry.
thinking, I could have done that a little better? That's not a
I
thing. You're
think
never satisfied.
No, you're not. How could you be satisfied?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I can relate to that.
Like you're looking at the mirror of the Lord
Hmm.
and
yeah.
all right, I'm gonna just take my brush, a tube of greasy color.
I'm gonna try to capture that in
Yeah.
some sense.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, that's a good point.
Okay, so art is in a way chasing the uncapturable.
It's so at times I think I mean, you wrestle with your ego, of course. Like you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is awesome. No one has ever painted clouds like me before. And then you look at what you could do if you were the Lord. And you're like, there's just nothing. There's no way I could ever meet that. And it's fun. It's humbling, but it's also like, yeah, there's a pursuit there. There's like a driving, like impetus to continue to grow,
Hmm.
sharpen your gift, I guess.
Did you, as I'm going to say, as a 11, 12, 13-year-old, once you had enough time in where you actually had some skill, do you remember having the sense of like, okay, it's not perfect, but man, I kind of captured what I set out to capture when I started this drawing or painting?
Yeah.
How old were you when that actually happened?
Steer.
Last year.
What?
Yeah. 30 years, you know.
No, I mean, when you're like that age, like 13, 14, whatever, you are really aware of what your peers are doing.
Okay.
And so your sense of achievement isn't so much based on your actual work as it is on what others are achieving around you. And so like when you do something and everyone's like, so cool, you're like, oh man, that is really cool. But then when you go home and you look at it, you're like, this is nothing.
Mm.
There's a little cognitive dissonance there.
Let me try to refine that. You say this is nothing, you mean this is inadequate. Okay. as in the thing that I was trying to capture is still out there and more perfect.
Yeah.
And that if you had never seen the thing that I saw and then you looked at my work,
Mm.
you wouldn't understand the thing I saw.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
But it's not always that bleak. You can actually, I mean, I've had a lot of fun just like noodling around with like ideas.
Hmm.
Like, just someone's like, hey, you want to draw a blender making a couch smoothie? Haha. And I'd be like, yeah, I totally want to make a blender making a couch smoothie. And then you draw it and it means nothing. And so it's successful.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be like that nonsensical, but there's a play with it as well that I think is light and not burdened by the desire for a mirror of perfection.
Okay.
It's worth trying to at least attempt to draw it, even if it's not good enough.
Or are you saying that like you may set out in art, you may set out trying to portray the perfection of what you saw, realize you are incapable in doing that. You pursue it anyway, but then you can reach this sort of equilibrium where while you are still trying to portray the perfection, you are playful and detached in that. And so you're not concerned when it's not
No,
quite
they
perfect.
never happen in the same piece.
Okay.
I don't think. I mean, maybe one day they will for me.
Okay.
But I'm saying there is an outlet for art that is not necessarily concerned with the higher truth and the higher beauty.
Okay.
Like, so you can doodle and have fun with it, or you can make little pieces of animals or something that are beautiful and interesting without feeling that burden.
Hmm.
And I've worked as an illustrator professionally, and in all of the jobs that I've had with that, there's been this like willful detachment from my sense of like aesthetic truth.
Mm.
Because if you try to pursue the beautiful in like a diagram of like a fault line, you're gonna be really frustrated. You know?
A fault line of like
Like geological.
like size tectonic plates.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So, but you can,
It's just a tectonic plate, everybody.
yeah. Well, and also like when someone is like commissioning you or when you're working for a client that has whatever parameters, like whatever media, like you're working digitally usually, and that's very flat. You can make it as beautiful as possible within those parameters, but if that is your number one concern, then it's gonna end up not really conveying necessarily what they want it to. Um, so you kind of have to like put that on hold for
Mm.
illustration projects like that.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Do you have any work that you're fully satisfied with where you're like, yep, I'm done. I it's good. I don't want to touch it again.
Well, I don't want to touch anything that I've done.
Okay. All right. So that's not the same
Except
question.
to burn maybe some of them.
Right. I don't want this associated with me. Burn it.
Um, yeah, no, there's a couple I mean, I've done a few watercolor landscapes that I'm really happy with. And uh yeah, I I wouldn't go back and touch them again anyway, but even at this stage, looking back on them and seeing imperfections, I'm happy with the result despite them, which is, I think, the best you can hope for.
Hmm. Okay.
Mm.
I am familiar with this in woodworking and actually with jiu-jitsu, what some people call the flow state, right? Where you do feel as if your body and your will and the materials at hand, be it the jiu-jitsu skills, be it the wood that you're working with or the materials you're working with, are all one, right? That your will, guided by your intellect, can direct the materials at hand. And so you feel in flow, as in like, yeah, if I think it, I can do it. Does that happen in art?
Yeah, it definitely does. I would say most frequently with watercolor painting for me.
Okay.
Um, and I think part of that is just simply like the temporal aspect of it. Like watercolor is a much more immediate medium. And something like oil painting, for example, like you have to mix the color and then apply it and blend it in whatever way you want. You know, you have to play with the levels of oil and solvent while you're working, and you're probably going to have to come back to the canvas like multiple days in a row. There's a lot of opportunities for you to be very satisfied with one passage and think everything is coming together perfectly, and then come back a few hours later and not feel that.
Okay, interesting.
Whereas,
You've just had an argument with a good friend, and all of a sudden that's showing up in your painting.
yes,
Damn.
yeah. With watercolor, there's still definitely like dry time that you have to take into account between like the layers of glaze that you apply. But while you're working, like you basically you have I'm painting right now. You have your brush, you have your water, you have your paint, and you can decide what your color looks like and it just create it instantly. Like you take your wet brush and you mix it on your palette and immediately apply it. There's not like this stage of like mixing your palette knife and like blending multiple colors. Like you can just because water flows so quickly,
Hmm.
you can just like if the color's not exactly the right, you just take a little more yellow or a little more umber or whatever, and then you can just like adjust the balance very quickly in real time and immediately put it on the paper. So there's like this kind of like instant feedback,
Okay,
which I think helps for the flow state.
gotcha. Specifically to watercolor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe charcoal as well, or you.
Charcoal, now charcoal's really frustrating.
Okay.
Um, I feel like I mean I've never really used it as a medium for a finished piece, but for sketching or like gesture drawing, it's useful because it's very like immediate feedback. Like
Okay.
you're working with a black color, like it's there once it's on the paper. I mean, and like there are like white charcoal pencils, so you can work on like a tone background and play with value that way, but there's not a lot of like nuance that you can achieve that you could with color.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think of it as being something for a finished piece, but for like sketching, absolutely. And I think sketches almost don't count because they can be very gratifying because they are more of a signpost pointing to the thing that you hope to achieve than like the representation of the thing that you were trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So you can like be very satisfied like looking at your sketches and then like see the finished painting and be disappointed. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
almost like framing a house. You're like, this is going to be great. And then someone's like, I want to do all wood, but we're going to paint it all white. And you're like, no.
Right, right. Like I'd rather
Can't
die.
do that.
Yeah, part of me wants to die. Now you've said what you've said. I don't want to do it, but you're paying me, so I do want to eat tonight. Yep.
It happens more often than not, which is really sad. People all think they're amazing interior designers because they're building their home. And like, sorry, but
Not. You are not a talented interior designer.
That's gotta be so frustrating, like to be doing something that's like kind of creative like that, but then you're not the one in charge of like the actual finished look of it.
yeah, you just have to make their ideas look good. A lot of times, it's
Sometimes
really
their ideas
hard.
are crap.
Yeah,
Whoa, that's really challenging.
yeah, and you know they're gonna be upset unless you deliver on something that's really hard to make look good, look good. Like shiplap is one of the, like it's a very hard thing to make it perfect because the boards themselves are usually warping and everything, but you have to have all your lines perfectly spaced, your corners line up, your miters are perfect, everything's got to be, and it's really hard to do that if something's wrong, like if the framing got off or like there's something weird with like outlets or lights, whatever, you got to do all these fancy cuts, and at the end you're just like, oh my gosh, like you have no idea how hard that was.
Yeah,
Mm,
now I have a new appreciation for shiplap.
yeah.
It's one of the hardest things to do.
My buddy Joe Clark once said to me, that, Jonathan, never underestimate the immense effort it takes to produce a mediocre work of art.
Mm.
It's so true, right? It's like, yeah, like you do all this work, you measure twice, you measure thrice, you doing all this thing to get the shiplap to come out good. And you're like, okay, yeah, it's good. But is it perfect? No. Yeah, right. It's like, is it chef's kiss? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I feel like with art too, 99% of the work happens in your mind.
Mm.
That's something that like I think a lot of people don't realize.
Hmm.
Like when you look at a painting, you're like, wow, like just the execution of this would take this long, right? But actually, every agonized decision also has to be factored into the total time. And like, because you don't start out with, it's not like paint by number, where you're like, I'm going to put this there and this there and this there. You start out with like an idea, but then every time you like approach the canvas, you have to decide how you're going to make that idea appear. There's like infinite little critical thinking stages that are so exhausting.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. What's the difficulty when you add in a commissioner, right? If someone's paying you to produce an X piece of art, like what layer of difficulty does that add? Is it the time crunch? Is it trying to get them to understand the limits of their own vision? Like, is it the dance between their vision and your vision? Is it
I would
all of the above?
It's usually not the time crunch,
Okay.
but I think, yeah, for me, there's like this underlying fear that they will not be satisfied with what I've produced. And then there's also the reality that my style or ability to execute their vision might not be exactly what they had in mind anyway.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then just yeah, not necessarily being on the same page from the outset. I think that's the communication part is really important.
Hmm. What do you wish that the average consumer of art understood about art? Like, do you wish they understood the mediums better? Do they wish they understood the fact that it's not going to be a photograph?
I guess it depends. Like, if you're thinking like of your average consumer as somebody who just like walks in to seeks coffee right now and sees my paintings on the wall.
What about the
Oh,
average person who walks into alchemy and says, "Oh, those horses with the really spindly legs look cool"?
I would say there's no accounting for taste. And I'm not making art for the consumer. I'm making it for myself. Because it's interesting to me to try to replicate what I'm seeing, you know. Um, if people like it, that's awesome. That I mean, that's great for my ego, but it's not like the thing that drives me at all.
Okay.
But of course, it's different if someone's hiring me. And if that's the consumer we're talking about, if someone's like, I want you to do this piece for me, then what I hope they understand is my general style. So that
Mm.
at the end, when they get the piece, they're like, yeah, that's awesome. I hired you because I like the way you work.
Your greatest hope is that people hire you because they like the way Allie Fitzmaurice captures captures the world, right? They want your vision, right? If they wanted the exact replica of something, they could just get a photograph, right? So
Yeah.
what they're ultimately paying for, hopefully, is the vision of the good world seen through your unique eye. And they're willing to spend money
Yeah.
to have a little taste of that in the work that you produce, right?
But to
Yeah.
me, it's so not about the money. Someone told me once that artists are classically poor because they don't have the average person's level of a dopamine response to the acquisition of cash. I would say that is absolutely true for me. I have never felt like, oh yeah, money. now I'm happy. I'm just like,
That's a gift.
I don't think it is because I'm very poor at But yeah, money is not at all a driving force for me. And if somebody liked my art enough to want to display it in their home, I'd pay them something for free because that would be awesome. Like I'd be doing something I already love doing, and they would like what I had done well enough to honor it in that way. And to me, that seems like an equal exchange. I shouldn't say
You're,
this
I was about
publicly.
to say, like, are you betraying artists everywhere by saying, like, oh, I'll work for exposure?
It's not even it's not even about exposure because I don't really care if like the world sees me and is like, oh, she's a genius.
Hmm.
First of all, I don't believe that about myself, so it would be very strange. But second of all, like the thing that is honoring is just that they like it.
All
They
right,
find
hold
it
on. So
beautiful.
let me see if I understand this correctly. You're telling me that, sorry, are you telling us that if you had a piece of work on display and two people contacted you about it, and one of them said, "I love your work, I think it's great. I'll pay you. I can only afford $1,000, but it'll be in my living room, and my family like we'll see it every day." And the other person said, I think you're a creative genius. I want to put you in my gallery and I'll pay you $10,000 for it. You would actually be like, I got to think about this.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, okay, because here's the thing.
That's awesome.
Like, well, here's the thing. I still have my hand and my mind and the ability to get more canvas. So like if someone is like, I like your style and I want you to be in my gallery, it's not because of that one piece that that person really loved.
Hmm.
I mean, would it be like a tough call? Absolutely. I'd love to be in a gallery. Um,
I sorry. Yeah, and when I said gallery, I just meant like sort of like in the multitude of all these other pieces that, it's not as special to them.
oh,
You'd be motivated by it being special to somebody.
okay. I will say
I
this.
want this to I like you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Decided a few years ago that if someone ever bought any of my paintings for $10,000, that would be like the pinnacle of achievement. So someone called me up and was like, $10,000, then I'm like, well, that's the pinnacle of my achievement.
Mm,
That's so it would be a little tough just because of that number.
right.
If they were like 9,900, it definitely would.
Yeah. All right. That last 100. Wow.
Well, the
Okay.
number 10,000 is, I think, objectively the most beautiful number.
Oh.
Don't think so. It's such just the way it sounds.
I never thought
It's
of
in
that.
so many songs too, like in Amazing Grace, like when we have been here 10,000 years. Like, I think because it's just beautiful.
That's really cool. I never thought of that, but yeah. Huh.
Call me jaded, but it's not like I've ever been like, oh, if my real estate commission is 10,000, I don't want any more, you know? If my real estate commission should be more than that, I'll take it. Wow. Okay. I have more questions about this. Let's take a quick charcuterie break.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Pink Floyd. All right. I need to up my level of familiarity with Pink Floyd.
It's a rabbit hole I think everyone should go down.
Hmm.
Who is Floyd?
It's not who, it's well, I mean, I guess it's multiple people.
Oh.
But yeah, it's a band. And some people call them the Kings of Depression. But I think that would be a better title for like Radiohead. I think Radiohead is just like sad on purpose. I think Pink Floyd is very emotive because they are pursuing higher truth and emotion kind of comes with that.
Just lift the mic a couple inches there. So what's going on with Yi?
Is that how you say it? And I thought it was Ye because I was like half of Kanye. I guess I'm not that big of a fan.
I don't know.
Is it yay?
I don't
I've
know.
heard it said yay,
Yeah, okay. Well, that's two against
but I
one,
like
so
ye better.
Right, and he says
thought he was-
Yeezy. He
okay.
calls himself Yeezy in a lot of
Oh,
his songs, so I could see it being Yee.
Yeah.
But I
ye
don't
and
know
ye.
what's going on with him. I mean, I have been really living under a rock,
Oh,
and also part of being married is like not pursuing the same things that you did as a single person with
mm,
single-minded focus.
sure.
Mhm.
Um, so even like listening to music is not the same,
Gotcha.
but I still think he is a great genius.
Tortured genius,
Very
I'm afraid.
tortured, yeah.
Sorry to keep bothering you about this, but you want it in front of, yeah, of your face. So yeah, that should be fine.
So I can cough into it.
So you can cough into it. Yeah.
Is
Don't,
is
yeah.
it better like this? Oh, this is like a really, it's concerning that this moves so much.
It's like a robot arm for recording thoughts.
Is it better like that?
I think that's, yeah. And then, yeah. So, and then push it just a little bit away so that you can lean forward if you want to. So, yeah.
But subconsciously, I'll always be leaning backward.
Yeah.
Yeah. hmm No, I just got a little frustrated on his behalf because it seemed to me that when he was married to Kardashian, it was so clear that her and her publicity team were laying track for their eventual split because, she'd come out with some statement like, oh, it's so hard dealing with his, with the mental health challenges that he has. And I remember seeing that months before their eventual divorce and thinking, oh, they're just getting ready. Like you could see it coming down the pike,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't seem to me that she was equipped with the skills to really help someone who may be a genius level creator, but also has some genuine needs, to which is the sort of thing a spouse should help you with. And it doesn't seem to me that she had either the skills or the disposition, as in she was not disposed to do it. And I think it was after their split that some of the more wild public stunts happened,
Mm.
right? And now I feel uh, I can't say I'm a fan of his music, but I feel bad for a man who clearly has some gifts, but also clearly has some traumas as well.
Okay, but when you say you're not a fan of his music, are you saying that you've spent a significant amount of time listening to his catalog?
No, not a significant amount of time,
Because
only some.
I think I could make you a fan of his music.
Okay, okay. To spend more time with it would be
Yeah,
to grow an
Mm.
appreciation for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a lot of beauty. I mean, raw beauty. And my favorite album of his is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And every single
It's not that Chianti.
sound, like every beat, everything is placed exactly intentionally to convey the meaning that he's trying to in each song. Like
hmm
it's incredible.
Okay.
And like when I say like, well, no artist is ever satisfied, I think he was satisfied at the end of that.
Hmm.
Now, Kanye's life experience and background are so different than mine that there are some things that he writes about that I just like find like repulsive. There's nothing I have in common with like certain of his struggles or
Mm.
like in terms of like drugs or sex, like they're just so out of my comfort zone and morality that they're hard to reconcile. But the thing that makes him a genius is that those he makes it clear in his music that those are accidentals to him, not essentials. And in not that it pardons, he doesn't pardon himself for anything immoral that he does. And actually, he criticizes himself in a lot of ways, in a lot of in a lot of those songs in the album. But the ability to separate the value of the man from even like the sin that the man partakes in, like
Mm-hmm.
I think is really astonishing and like not something that I've heard in any other rap music or any other music, probably for that matter. I think he has real truth,
Okay.
but how long can you hold on to that, right? Especially if you're bipolar and super famous. It's a lot working against him. But
There's a lot of obstacles in his path to, on a personal level, being happy, but on
mhm.
a call it professional level, being able to tell the truth in the medium that is best suited to him, music in this instance.
You should tag him in this podcast so we can listen to that. And then maybe he'll talk to me someday. It's like, I'll write that down.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
If he wants to come back to Wyoming, we'd be happy to talk to him.
He'll get as far as the part where we're debating how to pronounce his nickname.
Yeah.
He'll be like, these
Right.
idiots.
Yes. Yeah. Well, shout out to Ye. So keep telling the truth. Huh. Okay, so this is interesting that he has been sort of gifted with an insight, which I guess that's the burden, but also the gift of every artist, right? That they have an insight into something. But to what extent does their own their own personality get in the way? To what extent
Mm.
does the world not find itself ready to receive what it is they have to show or have to say? Is sort of the potential tragedy for every artist.
Mm.
Yeah. I read a book about the differences in the success between Ernest Masanier and Edward Manet, who lived basically at the same time. And the book basically opened with the question, have you heard of Ernest Masanier? No. Well, in the time period in which he was active, he was the most famous, the most sought after, and the most prolific artist in France. But no one outside of the academy really knows anything about him or his work. Whereas Monet started a movement in Impressionism that is part of our cultural fabric. But in his own lifetime, Monet was, I would think you would have to say, not
Right.
really successful. You know, he kind of made enough to get by before dying at, I think he was 43. He died young.
That's pretty young.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. That would be in 6 years for me. So something to think about there. Um,
Add that to your Irish melancholy.
the Irish melancholy constantly has things being added to it. Yeah. We probably shouldn't watch the news, honestly.
Irish people.
Irish people probably shouldn't. No. Yeah. Probably be better for our mental health.
This doesn't happen to me.
Hmm.
Ugh.
But yes, yes. I mean, sometimes the world is ready for an artist and their vision and insight, and sometimes it's simply not. So, yeah, I mean, I think Van Gogh is sort of the easy example of that.
I'm still not ready.
You're still not ready.
I'm just kidding. I like a lot of his stuff a lot.
Mm. What well, okay, this makes me curious. What famous, well-regarded artist do you just not have much time for?
I don't like Picasso
Okay.
at all. I think especially the abstract stuff is just like bizarre, like pandering to whatever the trends of the moment were. And actually, I feel that way about a lot of commercial artists after like the Dutch masters
Mhm.
because art became, I mean, I don't even know why exactly this was, but I would guess it's just like the way information was exchanged and like the approaching of like the industrial age, things were happening faster and like trends were moving more quickly and like the way ideas were shared or became popular became almost more commercial. And I think when the Dutch map, like when Rembrandt was painting, and obviously he was like working in a workshop and he had a lot of assistants, like the whole structure of art was so different. Like you would have a patron who would be like, I want this painting and I'll commission this person for this thing. Um, but the trends seem to either move slower or not be as like invasive into the production of like painting that they ended up becoming
Okay.
at the time of like the Impressionists, for example. But like, I think the goal then was either to like make an interesting, the goal then was to be like realistic, like beautiful, realistic. Um, and I think that that's particularly astonishing in that period because it's there's no camera, there's nothing that can fix a scene in place except for the artist's imagination. Um, and when we get to the Impressionists, like it feels like commercial interest on a larger scale creeps back into the production of art. And so like you get these weird trends
Is it
and that
because all of a
accelerates
sudden
into
the
the 20th.
bourgeois had access to art in a way that was not true a couple hundred years earlier, where you had to be rich, rich to commission art?
Maybe that's why.
Whereas now you could be basically middle class, but still, and maybe you were paying for prints. So all of a sudden there was a market for something that the public would like
I
versus one patron would want.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can only speculate because I didn't study art history at all. I'm just kind of guessing from what I know vaguely about those periods in history. And it just from the outlook of the paintings themselves, like without knowing about the reasons behind them, like why is it that suddenly like you get all this like really trite stuff that's like
You
kind of
thinking like Thomas Kincaid?
well, that's way later.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think Manet like is kind of in that same ilk. Like painting something that succeeds commercially is interesting to a large group of people for a period of time. It wasn't there before, and it might not be there tomorrow, but in that moment, there's like, it's like painting for, I don't know. I'd have to gather my thoughts more around this,
Yeah, yeah.
but it definitely seems like there is a dialogue that's happening with the audience after a certain stage in painting um, that takes away from the pursuit of like the ideal and becomes about the particular trend of the moment of how you ought to portray that ideal.
Hmm. Okay.
It's almost like the art became the vacuum cleaner everyone got.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
yeah, Sally had this thing and I just loved it. So I had to get one myself.
Yeah.
But it's not
As
like they
in, you're
actually
saying art became trendy.
trendy, yeah. Yeah. At least that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
The
I think,
commercial
yeah,
aspect to it.
I think that's what happened. I think it like, and that accelerated over time. And I can only guess it's because of the way like society kind of accelerated in its tightness of
Hmm.
communication and like industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are definitely factors. I remember watching a documentary that said concurrent with concurrent with the rise of Impressionism, there were also some technological changes. Um, so brushes, painters' brushes changed. Um, and so there's the wooden handle, there's the brush piece, but then there's the metal piece in the middle.
Mm,
What's that called again?
I don't even know.
Okay, but it allows you to crimp the brushes to different shapes.
Mhm.
Um, and so you can now have a greater variety of brushes. Then they said the other thing is that I want to make sure I remember this correctly. Once upon a time, all oils were in these rather delicate, like pig bladders, right? But now there were some changes in technology that allowed the paints to be contained in metal tubes, right? So all of a sudden you could take paints places um, and open them up, squeeze out a little paint, close them back up. And so plein air painting became much more possible. And you could come back and forth to a painting in a way that had not been an option before. Um, and so all of a sudden, in this would have been like the 1850s and 60s, you had an ability to paint a greater variety of scenes, a greater variety of places, a greater variety of times of day. And so that brought the painter out into the public eye because you're doing plein air painting, you were painting scenes of modern life. You weren't just stuck in a studio producing classical or biblical scenes for patrons. All that I can think is perhaps this contributed to painting itself being a bit more commoditized.
That makes a lot of sense.
And now we have Thomas Kincaid, which is a real tragedy. I know. Someone texted me the other day. They said, "Hey, I was in Greece the other day and I picked up this oil painting," and they texted me a picture of it.
Oh no.
And I didn't have the heart to tell them like, "Oh, that is just that's just commercial art. Oh, I'm really sorry, man."
God,
I just told them, "Well, you have another painting that I like better."
very cool. Not my favorite.
Exactly, not my favorite, not my favorite, but it's good that you're getting original art.
I would just
So
say art makes an excellent souvenir and leave it at that.
art makes an excellent souvenir. Yeah.
You don't need to tell them.
Yeah.
They'll read between the lines.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, you asked me about that statement that impressionism was the capturing of a single instant of light.
Hmm.
And when I read that, I immediately remembered Thomas Kincaid because his
Mm.
epithet is the painter of light.
Oh, is that
I
what it
think he
is?
might have given it to himself,
We should take it away.
but it's I think it's stuck.
Oh, it's stuck.
Uh-oh.
Permanently part of his name.
Oh,
So,
can't we call him like the painter of sentimentality?
I wouldn't even say that much.
Poor Thomas.
Yeah. But he was successful. So
Mm.
he wanted the money. He did not have the negative dopamine response.
Uh,
He
he was the one that didn't.
he was yeah, the one that got
He
away.
he was the one. Yeah, yeah. He laughed all the way to the bank. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
like so many artists, like I don't know, when I go to a museum, yeah, Thomas Kincaid is easy to make fun of, but I think so many artists that are well known have fallen prey to that like that same trap of commercial success versus like pursuit of truth.
Hmm.
Um, but also, who am I to criticize somebody whose name has gone down in the annals of history? Like,
Um, we're constantly wrestling with our predecessors in every endeavor, right?
Mhm.
Right? I don't think you have to be a you don't have to be a military general to think critically about the career of Napoleon, right? Or you don't have to be a ecclesiastic to think critically about the performance of a pope, right? Like I think there's some people who are like, well, if you haven't done it, you can't criticize it, and that's silly, right? These are people who still have a comprehensible job and they are still human beings. So other rational human beings can think about how well they performed in a given job. Right. The whole like if you haven't done it, don't criticize me. I mean that's intellectually lazy and a cop out. So yeah. So please criticize away. Yeah.
okay.
Who else do you want to criticize? commercially successful or not. Right.
No one's really popping up in my mind right now.
Mm,
Um, but I will say one of my favorites, I think, is often criticized,
mm.
and that is Norman Rockwell.
Ooh,
I like him.
often criticized.
Oh yeah, as being kind of like trite or very commercial. Like a lot of his paintings were what for the Saturday Evening Post.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
So the thing is, I feel like he totally transcends that because first of all, he's incredibly skilled.
Mm,
His work feels immediate, even though they're like these tediously studied oil paintings.
yep.
Yeah.
And they're super colorful and evocative without being cartoonish at all. Like they're very realistic, but yet the characters are shown so clearly. Um, there's nothing that I don't like about his work. And he's like, if you're like in a discussion with other artists, he's like somebody that people would make fun of.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Because
love
yet,
that kind of
yeah.
like illustrating style. Like, I mean, what's the most awesome thing about art to me is like you're mirroring the beauty that you see around you. And
Mm.
one of the most beautiful things is like human relationship. And he does that so well.
And I think you can see his development. I mean, you can look at the pictures that he painted of soldiers in World War One, and many of them are sort of the square-jawed, all-American Captain America types, right? That sort of promote the idea of the American soldier as the American hero. And and then in World War II, what are his paintings of soldiers? It's the skinny redheaded boy who comes back to his South Boston, New York apartment. It's unclear, but some immigrant community in one of the large East Coast cities, and it's just the moment he comes home, or that man peeling potatoes with his mother, right? Like the way that Rockwell has progressed in those 20 years is something really worth considering.
And I like all of it.
Yeah.
I think he's great.
He's great. Yeah. Yeah. He had an understanding of human life
Mm.
that comes out more and more and more clearly as he progresses. Yeah. Yeah. There's a great Norman Rockwell Museum in Vermont. So my
That's
family and I went there a couple of years ago. So yeah. So maybe that's because he was from New England, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I think he was. Maybe it's because of that. I mean, growing up in New England, he was not derided in any way. Yeah, he was pretty well respected. My dad had a coworker. Did I tell you this story, Tom?
I don't think so.
My dad had a coworker who came into my dad's office and was just chatting, and they were just ended up talking about life. The coworker's father had passed away, and they were going through all of his estate. Um, and so they were just discussing that generally. A month goes by, and the coworker announces that he's retiring. And this is when my dad and was in his maybe 40s, and so I assume the coworker was a similar age. So retiring remarkably early. And my dad said, what's the deal? He says, well, we were going through my father's estate, and we found an original Norman Rockwell.
Oh my gosh.
So worth at least 10 million.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what
Wow.
had happened is the coworker's father was a painter and had been friends with Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell had given him a painting. The coworker's father had subsequently gone through a divorce, and in the divorce, the ex-wife was awarded this Norman Rockwell painting. But the father was also a painter. So he painted a replica of this Norman Rockwell, gave that to the ex as like, this is the painting. and then hid the original Norman Rockwell in the basement, like behind the staircase. Like he built like a hidden panel and then told his son, like, when I pass away, like open up the staircase.
Yes.
Whoa. So they open it up and they find an original. And like once they find it and they take it to, they take it to the lawyers and they're like, we should get this appraised. And so it was appraised at, I want to say something like 14 million.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
said, okay, all right, we're going to sell it and then we're going to retire. And that's what they did.
Wow,
Oh.
so they are not holding on to that piece of art because it's beautiful. They are cashing in.
I have thought about that multiple times. Like, what if I had like uh, an original Monet or yeah, or a Rembrandt or something like something that's worth like 50 mil,
Gobs of
50
money.
million, 60 million, 100 million. And I'm like, man, if someone gave that to me and said, I just want you to hold on to this.
Would be, I think actually it would be very tempting to sell it because I would feel totally unequal to the task of keeping it in good
Oh,
condition.
yeah,
Oh,
that too.
Like, how sad would it be if you had some beautiful original piece of art and just like it got faded and damaged and
Yeah.
some kid drew on it?
Yeah.
right.
Like,
Right. You were moving a piano and you accidentally
just
put
gouged.
the corner of the piano through the canvas. God, that's an $8 million mistake.
Now you can't sell it.
Hmm. It would still sell, but at what price? So,
Ah,
yeah, I'd be worried about the security of it, right? Like if word got around, like, oh, he's got,
yeah, that would be
yeah.
scary too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who would you sell it? Like, would a museum pay for it?
Like if he's got it like an original Van Eyck, yeah,
Oh.
on his walls in Lander, Wyoming, what are you gonna do? Put a security system around it? It'd be the easiest thing in the world to come and take it. Maybe that would actually be your strength. Like, who would actually believe that some guy on the north side of Lander has
On the north
has has an $80 million painting on his wall? Yeah,
side.
that'd actually be your greatest protection is the anonymity.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that exists in Lander, because Lander is
I would
like,
think it was on the south side for sure.
yeah,
yeah. On the south side,
yeah, South Side.
definitely true. Yeah, Lander is a town of surprises.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Now I'm gonna be looking at people's
I
art.
know. It's just like,
Yeah, now you're gonna be looking a little more closely when you go through the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. North side, it's me and Sarah Bowes, or Sarah Cooper now. Yeah, she's currently ahead in best art collection in Lander
mm.
on the south side at least. I mean, sorry, on north side at least.
What about my art collection?
Oh,
I'm
I
on the
didn't even
north
know.
side.
I didn't even know you had your own collection.
It's just my own
I
paintings.
thought you just gave it away.
It's all up in Sinks right now,
You
which is
thought,
also on the north side of town.
which is also on the north side of town.
Mm.
But they
Yeah.
were all on my walls.
Whoa. So what's the idea there?
Andrew was like, "Hey, can you help a buddy out? Because the lady took her paintings down and now I have a blank wall." And I was
Oh.
like, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
So they all just went up there.
Okay. Are they up for sale?
I'm thinking I will sell them in a flash sale like on graduation weekend, which is in like 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
for a very cheap price.
Whoa, Allie, yeah.
No, I
Don't
want
undercut
This is
yourself.
insider trading right
Wait.
here.
Yeah, this is insider
Yeah.
trading. You heard it here first.
I want to sell them all so I can start over. Plus, I think it would be really cool, like if, I mean, I don't know if this is the case, but if there are students who are like, man, I really like this art, and it makes me think of Sinks Coffee,
Hmm.
which is like where I've been going to school, but I can't afford it unless it's like really cheap. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be cool.
Okay.
Mm.
It would be really awkward though if I made them really cheap and then nobody bought them still.
Oh,
I
I'd
think
be
you
like,
have at least two customers right here.
yeah, yeah. Make them cheap. Right. Make them really cheap. Yeah.
this one woman emailed me and asked about one of the paintings, and I was like, what should I say? It's been a while. I haven't sold it. And so I like kind of undervalued it.
Oh no.
And she was like, that's outside my budget, but I'll think about it. And I was like,
What
I'm
was
gonna
it?
have to undervalue all my pieces if
Oh,
I want them to go.
Hmm.
Well, that's the other thing is
What
like,
goes, yeah, what goes into pricing?
well,
I don't even know. I have no idea how an artist prices.
oh, some artists price per like square inch, which I think kind of makes sense in like very utilitarian way.
Hmm.
But I think for me, it depends. Like if somebody has commissioned me, then I can do something based mostly on the time,
Hmm.
um, factor in a couple of other variables, but the time that I spend, I think more or less,
Okay.
um, as an hourly rate. But if it's like just something I've painted and I enjoyed painting it, but now I want it out of my house,
Hmm.
then I have to like kind of guess, like, what is the audience around here willing to pay for a piece like this?
Okay.
And like, I know a lot of art, I feel terrible saying this because I think a lot of artists would say that I am doing a discredit to the world of art by undervaluing my work in that way. Like, price it as high as you would for any customer at all times. Like, and if it doesn't sell, you need to find a different audience
You
or a
need to
different
wait.
market. Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think that's realistic. I'm not in it for the money, and I would like it to go so I can paint another thing and not have it sitting around and like getting cobwebby, you know?
A buddy and I were in Maine one time and we were wandering. We found this gallery. And so we we knocked on the door. The guy answered. We were like, we see a sign that says gallery. It was like one side of the house was where he lived, and then the other side of the house was where he displayed all his work. Um, but it was like he was like big into art. Sorry, big into the like rock and roll scene. So he was this artist in Maine, but like a lot of the paintings on his wall was like a portrait of Van Halen. It's like I'm not interested in this. But he's like, oh, I've got like a bunch of nautical stuff upstairs in my attic. So we said, well, we got plenty of time. Let's go. So we go upstairs to his attic and we're just like, and it was honestly, it was really good stuff. It was like these oil paintings of like scenes from harbors and the old port towns and ships and everything. But it was like, it was all these canvases like in dusty piles in the attic of this 200-year-old house. And so I picked one up. It was a ship. I liked it. And I was like, well, like, what do you think for this? And, it's maybe this big. He's like, well, I'd have to frame it and ship it out to you, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but, like $2,000. And I just remember feeling this was sitting in a dusty pile of other paintings in your attic and it's worth $2,000. Like he didn't have the presentation to
Yeah.
make me think, oh, I should spend $2,000 on this. I'm wondering how often artists are stuck in that dynamic of like their art is in a coffee shop or their art is like in like a pile of other paintings in their gallery. It doesn't look hard to acquire.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts there?
No, I think that's absolutely true. Like, presentation is a huge part of it, and that's why everyone wants to get into a gallery in like
Okay.
Jackson Hole.
Man, I go up to those galleries in Jackson Hole. I'm like 10 grand. I'm like, I'd think about it.
Really? Because I actually,
No, there's a painting in Jackson. It's like aspens in October, right? It's
yeah.
like those golden aspens. It's $10,000. I have the picture in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, I'd go back there, and if I had $10,000 to spend, I'd go get
So that's
it.
exactly why you want to get into Jackson Hole because
Talk me out of this.
literally you could take a like cell phone picture of that painting
yeah.
and show it to me or anyone who knows how to use oil paint,
Yep.
and they can make you the same thing, you know, but personal for you for whatever price you want.
Oh, it's tempting.
I mean, I'm sure it's beautiful.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that at all, but I just feel like I don't know. I was in Santa Fe recently and walking around looking, in the windows, and there are some beautiful or like interesting pieces, but a lot of the stuff in those galleries is like somebody's 70, they just started painting and they have a ton of money to just throw away on like the materials. And they're not necessarily like awesome, but because they're there in that gallery, they can put a huge price on that painting. And eventually somebody with a lot of money is going to see it and be like, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And so it's like kind of like that exposure thing you were talking about earlier.
Mm.
Like you do need, like if you're going to price a work at that in that range, you need to know that somebody who has those means could look at it and also want to buy it.
Okay.
So,
That's a good way to think about it.
yeah, I mean, if you're hiding it in an attic, if somebody knows that it's just sitting there, like it's not a competitive commodity anymore, you know, it's not like
Mm.
nobody wants to pay money for something that looks like used clothes, you know?
Well, that was the problem, is that the guy was a little woozy and kind of seemed to have trouble concentrating on any particular topic. I was like, man, would I really pay $2,000 for something that I could probably shoplift out of here? You know, if I get my buddy to kind of distract him, I could probably just like drop this out of a window
Oh my
and come get it later.
That's not a thought that I would have had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the trouble. So I think Tom knows this, but I mean, the two paintings on these two walls over here, I mean, honestly, the guy gave them to me because he was leaving Lander, was out of room in his moving van, and was just like, well, they're just sitting in my basement underneath the stairs. So he's like, someone might as well as enjoy them, right? And so he just gave them to me, right? So it just seems to me that art suffers from the fact that you can be in a gallery and a painting could cost $25,000, and then a painting of a similar size and to the layman exhibiting a similar level of skill, and you could conceivably just be given it. It's
Mhm.
like what other product is out there is like that?
That's why you can't be an artist and be in it for the money.
Hmm.
Like it just doesn't make any I mean, unless you're just one of the gifted few
Hmm.
that like life just hands you the talent and also
The
like
market niche.
yeah, which which is constantly shifting. Like you have to do it for your own love of it.
Hmm.
And like yeah, if somebody wants to buy it for a ton of money, that's awesome. But I don't think you can really do it for that reason.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I think that's
Because
why
but you're also saying you could do it for that reason, but you end up like a Thomas Kincaid, where it's just all of your art feels the same.
yeah.
You've sort of dropped into one single channel of expression because you have a brand to maintain.
Well, but that's why I think Norman Rockwell is so exceptional because he is commercially successful, but he maintains his integrity
Mm.
despite that.
That's
That's I think that's really rare.
very rare. Yeah.
You
It's
know?
almost like the common thing everyone talks about, like being influencers these days, is like they live two lives because their influencer life isn't actually them, but it gets views, so they have to keep doing it.
Oh
Mm.
man, that sounds exhausting.
It sounds awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Andrew was saying to us. He's
Yeah.
like, it was exhausting trying to look this happy.
Yeah.
6 times a day, you had to represent to the world that you were having a blast. And who's having a blast 6 times a day, every day? Nobody.
Yeah.
That's
Not
who.
blast
Wait a
in a
minute.
while.
Yeah. Kindergarteners. Kindergarteners
Yeah.
could conceivably be having a blast.
Yeah.
Your son is
Yes.
probably,
Every time he sees my face.
yeah. Woo!
Yes.
Yes!
Milk is back.
Yeah, that's the name of this episode, right? Milk is back. Right. Right. What's that? Looks like milk's back on the menu, boys. Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that would be Yeah, but that's kind of the influence, the trap that they voluntarily sign up for.
Yeah, it's like you lose. It's not like you just live two lives. It's like the one starts to consume the other. So it's like
Mm.
you become that thing you don't really like and you don't want to be, but you do it so much that those become the actions that you do every day. So then, like, you essentially kind of morph into that personality.
Well, maybe you even do want to be that
Terrifying.
person. It's
That too, yeah.
right. Like you do want to be this guy who's always on cloud nine. It's just probably, if you're honest with yourself, it's sort of disingenuous. Like I'm not on
Right.
cloud nine.
Yeah.
Like again, Andrew was saying, he's like, I'm exhausted, I'm sleep deprived, my body's totally out of its sleep rhythm,
Hmm.
and now I have to go perform in front of thousands of people. I got to take a selfie that makes me look like I'm on the top of the world, even though all I want to do is curl up and go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's so sad. How do you hide the bags under your eyes?
Sunglasses, man.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Sunglasses.
I'm like,
Yep.
maybe he's one of the naked mole rat people.
Right. Right. No matter how tired he is, he always looks great. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or you take you take a silhouette photo, or you have someone behind you take a photo of you just like going, it's only from behind, as you walking out on stage, right? And yeah, there's ways to disguise it for sure. Uh-huh. That's rough. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think for people in that world, it would be frustrating because you'd be like, whoa, I'm at the top.
Mhm.
There's nowhere else to go. I am where everyone else wants to be. I don't really have anywhere higher to climb. Not really. And yet, it's not that I don't like it. It's not that I don't enjoy it. I'm not saying I want to walk away from it. It's just not I'm just not content.
I just don't have the beatific vision
I
yet.
don't have the beatific vision, right? I mean, at least someone else who's still struggling, toiling away at some job, they could at least think, well, maybe my life could improve. But for someone whose life could not materially improve, man,
Yeah, it's a rough place to be.
it's a bummer. I want to try it, but I could understand it being a bummer. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I want to try it.
You don't want to try
No.
it. Yeah. No, you're happy.
Well, I mean, I'm content.
Hmm.
Happiness comes and goes,
Hmm. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I feel like also the public eye is very intimidating.
Hmm. And capricious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you falling asleep?
Yeah.
No.
I'm doing pretty good. And
I saw the eyes close and I was like, oh no, this
oh,
All right.
podcast is a wrap.
Yeah, we need the sunglasses. Yeah.
yeah.
Hey.
Right, right. And then in
Those on.
2025, Tom started wearing reflective sunglasses, every episode.
You
Oh
guys
my
keep
gosh.
talking, I'm listening and thinking about what you're saying.
Right, exactly. It's a dream, baby. It's a dream.
Yeah.
No, Ali, this has been fantastic. We really appreciate you making time in your clearly very busy life to come and talk to us. And so
Dave's
we
asleep right now.
right. Yeah. So yeah, we just can't wait for you to come back and chat with us more.
Yeah.
So perfect. That's a wrap.
Thanks for having me.